we had a meeting this afternoon with the Ministry of Finance officials. As you know, that we've been talking about the putting in place the National Development Plan. There used to be 5-year development plans that existed in Fiji prior to the first coup in 1987. Since then, we haven't had a development plan, and we intend to start that this year. However, prior to that, obviously, we'll have widespread public consultations. And we hope that these consultations will, in fact, take place probably or commence around about the second or the third week of June. It will be very, very widespread, not just confined to the urban centers, but it will also, go out to the other islands in Fiji, including in the eastern islands and up in the north, etc. So we also will be in those public consultations, we'll be inviting members of the different organizations, Suva Chamber of Commerce, Fiji Employers Federation, various NGO groups. Just to give you an example, on Europe Day a few weeks ago, when we went there, we discovered that there are many NGOs that actually existed that we did not even know about. For example, there's an NGO that deals specifically with a helpline for children who are being abused. And on the telephone, you can seek help. Now, obviously, that sort of work is being done by some, which many of us do not know about. And there's also work being done by others, so there's some duplication of that. So in terms of better utilization of the limited resources we have, we need to be able to get all the stakeholders together. Some may say, well, what's the children abuse got to do with businesses? It has a lot to do with that, because also there's scarce resources that we may want to allocate. And obviously in terms of prioritization, these things need to be known for us to be able to factor that into the budget. And if it's being funded by, for example, some NGO working in collaboration with a development partner, and we feel safe and secure that it's being done and that particular social issue is being addressed, then the budgetary allocation can be diverted somewhere else. So that's the sort of logic behind it all. And this is why these consultations need to be quite extensive. We envisage it will take about at least a month, if not more, for us to be able to complete that. We have also sought the assistance of multilateral organizations like ADB and World Bank. We had some meetings just last week in terms of putting together this development plan. We want to be able to put in place not just a 5-year development plan, but something that looks out to the 20-year plan, an overall big picture approach. And then you have a more specific 5-year development plan. It will of course help us as a government in terms of saying, well, these are the priorities. It will help the citizens of Fiji in terms of knowing where we are going. It will also help you as businesses to know what is the focus in the area of development. We should be able to, for example, say that in 4 years' time, we will be able to build a new bridge here because there's going to be a demand for it. We should be able to say that in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, we need to be able to put a sewage and water reticulation system in this particular area because of the growth of the population. So these are the things that actually will help us, but also it helps the development partners in terms of giving their aid assistance if they want to, so they can direct it specifically, and they also have their own budgets. So they can plan and say, well, okay, we've got a $400 million allocation, for example, for Fiji in the next 4 years, and this is how we'll direct those resources. So I'm actually urging all of you to please contribute in the consultation period, because it is very, very critical. There's obviously issues specific to the fishing industry that Graham is concerned about, and we've been having some discussions on the email. It's a one-way conversation at the moment. But these are the issues that we need to address. And so please, in your specific areas, I would love to hear from you. Overall, I think in terms of the trajectory of the economy, it's on a good footing. As you know, that our Standard & Poor ratings has gone up, which is a very good sign. It does make you an attractive proposition in terms of attracting better interest rates if you're going out to the international market to raise bonds. We have an outstanding bond of $250 million that matures in March of next year. So at the moment we are going through the assessments and analysis in terms of how best to address that. Do you go and roll it out? Do you, for example, pay part of it off? What other sources of funding you need to look at? So if your economic trajectory is good, if your ratings improve by international benchmarks, then obviously you get a better interest rate in the market, which is obviously good for the country. So these are some of the issues that's at the fore at the moment, and we want to obviously capitalize. And as I mentioned to the President of Suva Chamber of Commerce and others, and as the Prime Minister has also quite emphatically said in various other forums, including one held over here when we had the launch of the FIRCA Day, that obviously government is committed and does recognize the fact that there are various processes that need to be improved, including, for example, consistency in decision making from agencies like FIRCA, LTA, Immigration Department in terms of, say, processing of work permits, etc. So these things are very critically important, and I think we cannot obviously rest on our laurels and say, economy is doing really well, it's over 4%, but we have to take it up to the next stage. And the next stage obviously includes processing, consistency in decision making. We've all been talking about it for years, and now there's going to be a sort of highly focused area in that specific territory. One other issue, as you know, that is also critical for government delivery services is the appointment of permanent secretaries. The Public Service Commission, as you know, has been appointed by His Excellency the President. We have a chair, and as you can see, the makeup of the Commission, there is a very emphatic emphasis on private sector participation in the Commission. We have the CEO of ANZ Bank as the chair. We've got other various people with business interests that have been now made commissioners. One of them, of course, is Kalpe Solanki, who's here. He's been part of TCF and various other organizations. So it's good to be able to get that private sector participation, because it brings a particular, I suppose, nuanced approach, if anything, in the selection of permanent secretaries. Because if you want a civil service that's going to be responsive to the modern day way of dealing with business in government and approach and understanding of businesses, you obviously need to have people who will, in the selection process, understand those processes themselves in the first place. So this is an indication to you, those of you from the business sector, that government obviously is committed to ensuring that we have a commercial approach to the running of business, and also at the same time be responsive to various social requirements and needs of the Fijians at large. I think that would be sort of the key issues that I'd probably like to highlight. One of them, of course, the two others. As you know, the companies bill got passed without the opposition on the other side on Friday last week, which is a pity. But nonetheless, the reality is that the companies bill, as you know, had been through the throes of public consultations for about 2 years prior to the bill being presented to Parliament. And I know the Institute of Accountants, the lawyers, and various other organizations, including individuals, had made submissions when Minta Ellison was drafting the company's bill. And once the bill had been presented to Parliament, it was also referred to the Select Committee on Law and Justice and Human Rights. That's the committee that goes before. And they also had submissions. Some amendments have been made to the company's bill, and all those amendments were accepted by Parliament, and the bill now, of course, has become an act of Parliament. It is not in place yet, because as those of you who read the act now, it comes into force upon the commencement date being designated by the minister responsible for it. But the company's bill is there. It obviously sets new standards in terms of transparency, in terms of director standards, but also makes things easier. I mean, winding up petitions, as you know, became a bit of a joke that was used by many lawyers, to undermine many companies. That obviously will be a thing of the past under the new company's bill. You now have the ability in terms of share buybacks, and all of that is made a lot more easier. Companies now, of course, can be owned by one person. You don't have to have two shareholder companies. All of that has changed, and company seals are gone. I really don't want to get into the company's bill per se tonight, but we can have another session on it. But the fact is it's in place. The reason why I'm highlighting that is because it goes to show that, again, we have a sort of a modernized approach in terms of doing business in Fiji, and of course it will help improve our ease of doing business rankings, although the ease of business doing rankings, I hasten to add, is somewhat flawed in the way it's assessed. For example, we looked at they send out questionnaires, the World Bank people who do this, they send out questionnaires to various people within Fiji. And we found that I think there were 6 or 7 questionnaires were sent to one particular law firm. So obviously you get a jaundiced view depending on what the view of the law firm is. So it skews the results. The investment Fiji, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I think we've just got agreement with ANZ that will be providing the payment gateway. That is being sorted out, and we will then launch the one window application for foreign investment, where you apply online, you pay online, and you get your approval by the top 5 tier agencies, which is Investment Fiji itself, RBF, Immigration Department, FECA, and Companies Office. And they can give you all the approval online, and that obviously will expedite the process in terms of approvals. We hope to now, in the next stage, move to what we call the second tier agencies, which includes things like environment and various other agencies, including Lands Department. An important bill was also put before Parliament on Friday, which has now been referred to the committee, and the committee is to get back to Parliament in the July session, and that is the amendment to the Employment Relations Promulgation. Some of you know a little bit of a story about that there were various complaints that were raised by the trade unions at the ILO level, saying that some of the laws that had been passed by the Bainimarama government and had been put into practice were in fact a breach of the ILO conventions. We obviously beg to differ, but we have, however, as you know, signed a tripartite agreement in Geneva last year to say that we will ensure that the laws are amended to ensure strict compliance with the ILO core conventions. The union approach was slightly different. They wanted the entire ERP to be reviewed, which was outside the scope of simply adhering to the ILO conventions. Sorry, can I have that water? I don't want to. The bill, ladies and gentlemen, in fact, has a number of changes to it in terms of ensuring compliance with the ILO conventions, and these include the reintroduction of what we had the tripartite arrangement we had in the alliance government that Singapore has now. So that has been brought back under this bill, where you have a tribunal of sorts, where you have a president of the tribunal, and then the membership is made up by one rep from the employer organization, one rep from the employee organizations. These, in fact, relate to organizations that are held to be essential, which of course includes the financial sector. So there were various other issues that had been left out because we thought it needed to be discussed at a much broader level, because the Employment Relations Advisory Board has a limited representation at this stage. And these other issues that they wanted to discuss were things like paternity leave, the right to strike without notice, and we've actually said the right to strike without notice is something that Fiji cannot afford to have at this stage of its development, because it would have applied across the board. The bill, we would like you to have a look at the bill, because obviously it have an impact on all of you as employers, those of you who are employers. But I think we have, government has sort of bent over quite significantly to be able to accommodate the demands of the trade unions. And I think the breaking point was that once it was, the bill obviously was discussed with them, they said they needed to get the concurrence of the International Trade Union Congress, which obviously is not the scope of any tripartite agreement. Tripartite agreements are supposed to be within the 3 stakeholders within each country, not some international organization. So I would urge the chamber to circulate. Obviously the copies of the bill is available to your members to be able to assess that. Please go and make submissions to the committee. The committee is obviously going to sit in the next week or so because it has to give its report to the next sitting of Parliament, which is in July. I think, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, these are probably the key issues that are currently on foot that I'd like to address. As I said, the emphasis is on ensuring that the processes within government, the response times get improved, the advertisements for the permanent secretary, and indeed the appointment of new permanent secretaries, hopefully in the next couple of months, will see significant changes in the service delivery of government. We do recognize ourselves that in some areas there has been a lack of consistency in the decision-making processes. So in terms of setting of precedents, even in not even in terms of precedents set by courts, but also in terms of precedents set by decision-making, there is a lack of that. And what we want to see ultimately is to ensure that there is a consistency that people can actually rely on. Last but not least, we are at the moment, LexisNexis has been given the job to consolidate. We've actually done a lot of work in the consolidation of the laws of Fiji, and now we've got the experts to come in and brush it all up. It will all be available on 10th of October, on Independence Day, the new revised laws of Fiji, which has not been revised in a consolidated form since 1985 or 1987. So we'll be doing that. So that'll be available. It'll also be available online. You can pay online subscription and get that. The government gets a little bit of royalty from that too. But you can do that, and I think it'll make a whole lot of your work easy in terms of being able to access various regulations and laws. And that's something indeed to look forward to. So with those few words, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the invitation tonight. And we'd love to hear from you in terms of your issues. We do have some limitation on time, I understand. But I look forward to hearing from you. Naka, thank you.